What up, motherfucks? It's your boy, the Hater, and today is a beautiful, beautiful day in the Hater's neighborhood. I don't see one cloud in the sky. It's about 70, 71 degrees Fahrenheit up in this motherfucker, you know what I'm saying? And it's really, really just a beautiful day. So this excites the Hater. This excites me, motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? It gets your boy into it, you know? But what doesn't excite me is Wednesday Night Wrestling. So that's what we're going to talk about today. This Wednesday's NXT and AEW. Now, I will say this, motherfucks. You know, we always say it like it is here in the Hater channel. Both NXT and AEW were actually pretty good this week. I mean, when I say pretty good, obviously we have to take that into consideration, what that means, right? That just means it's better than usual. Doesn't mean that anything great happened, right? So we're going to go and talk about the things that your boy remembers, because I probably forgot a lot of it because it was all kind of stupid anyways. But yeah, let's start with NXT. First up, right? William Regal comes out and has two big announcements. Both announcements were actually pretty cool. You know, the first announcement was that essentially Wednesday, I think it's the Wednesday and Thursday before WrestleMania weekend, right? So it's going to be like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday's going to be a day off, and then Saturday and Sunday are going to be the WrestleMania days, right? They're going to do basically, what's it called? It's called like NXT Stand and Deliver, I think. But basically it's NXT WrestleMania, right? Which I thought was actually pretty cool, you know? I've never understood why NXT doesn't have this big show before WrestleMania and promote it as a big show, you know? They have a takeover usually, but it's just presented as another takeover. It should be presented as a legitimate, like, WrestleMania worthy event, as like the same way WrestleMania is presented for the main roster, right? As the conclusion to the season, as the season finale. You know, this I think is a great idea for a variety of reasons. Number one, it's 2 nights, which means that everyone, including the shittiest wrestlers of all time, are going to get a spot on the card most likely. Now, with that being said, it's also important, right? Because it occupies 2 more days in the week. In WrestleMania week, right? For a while it was WrestleMania weekend, now it's becoming WrestleMania week, motherfucks. And this is very important. Not in terms of like, you know, the quality of the product that we're gonna watch. It's not gonna affect that at all, probably. But what it is gonna do is in the future, like next year, when shit hopefully is completely opened up, right? When that shit happens, people are gonna be like, oh, shit, I have to take the whole week off to go enjoy WrestleMania week because I have like 2 NXTs, 2 WrestleManias, let's say, right? If they continue this trend. The point I'm making is that a lot of these little shows that pretty much parasite off of WrestleMania, right? Like ROH, probably AEW, a bunch of Japanese promotions and a bunch of indie promotions that pretty much go to the same town when WrestleMania is going to be held, and they try to take advantage of the built-in audience that's coming there to watch WrestleMania. You know what I mean? Like, now people are going to be like, okay, I could go watch ROH, or I could go watch, like, NXT WrestleMania, you know? Like a legitimate, like, pay-per-view for NXT, you know what I mean? And if they do this intelligently, like for example, if one year, let's say they have a match where like the winner of the NXT WrestleMania main event goes on to compete in the WrestleMania main event, let's say, I don't know, they win a tournament or something and they get a title shot, you know, for WrestleMania or for something, you know what I mean? Like maybe make a storyline out of it. The point I'm trying to make is you can integrate these 4 shows together if you wanted to. The same way that last year they had Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley for the NXT title at WrestleMania, you could do something similar. You know, you could have like, I don't know, like one of the main events at NXT TakeOver is like for the number 1 contendership for the, let's say, Intercontinental title. I don't know, something like that, right? Point is, it's cool. The second announcement was the introduction of the women's tag team titles NXT version. I think this is a horrible idea. I actually really like the women's tag team titles as a concept because they allow the women's champions to bounce from show to show. This was presented as William Regal and NXT's response to the screw job of last week when what are they called? Fucking Raquel Diaz, whatever her name is, and Dakota Kai got screwed by the Raw referee, right? So the argument was, okay, now we have our own set of titles, so you can kiss our asses. So, I mean, that's kind of cool, but it's like the whole point of the women's tag team titles is, like the thing that makes it interesting is that you can go around different shows, right? It's just like the world tag team titles were for a while when Jericho and Big Show had them, and Jericho was banned from being on Raw. Then he becomes tag team champion, and now he can go on Raw, right? And he's like, I'm back, motherfucks. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, it serves as a good plot device. Adding just another title in this case, takes away from the from the real tag team titles, and more importantly, right, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't add any value, right? So the people that become champions were the winners of the Dusty Classic, you know, which is ridiculous because it's like, all right, fine, I get it, I guess, you know, like they got screwed out of their title shot, and they just had a tournament with tag teams, so it makes sense that the winner of that tournament would be like the tag team, right? So they get bequeathed the tag team titles, right? More on that later, motherfucks. First up, we have Io Shirai versus Toni Storm. I did not enjoy this. I did not watch most of it. I really don't see the appeal of Toni Storm. A lot of people like her. I just don't. I don't see the appeal. You know, she's kind of fat, in my opinion. She's not. I mean, not that there's something wrong with that. You know, we love fat people here on the Hater Channel, motherfucks. By the way, the Haters' diet's going just fine. You know, keep losing them pounds, motherfuck. So. But I don't really find her very appealing as a wrestler. Like, I don't think there's anything that sets her apart from any other one of those broads, right? That's how I feel about a lot of wrestlers nowadays, right? But more on that later, motherfucks. Next up, so basically, Io Shirai wins, and she's been champion for like a fucking eternity, so who cares, right? Next up, we have, what's his face? What happened last night? They had LA Knight. He gets into a thing with Bronson Reed. No one really cares about that at all. I can't believe this is going to be like a feud. Like, this is like, why is this a feud? This should just be like a squash match. Obviously, LA Knight's going to win. Pete Atlas versus Jake Dunn, motherfucks. So Pete Dunne versus Jake Atlas, just a random match. This was really stupid. Pete Dunne wins, and then he cuts a promo saying he's the best technical wrestler, and he wants people to prove otherwise. And I'm like, dude, you just lost to Finn Balor, so it's already been proven last week. You know, you can't lose, then declare yourself the best, and then say, prove me wrong. You were just proven wrong, motherfucks. That's how it works. So the match was okay. It was what it was supposed to be. And then they had a thing. It was Imperium trying to like woo Timothy Thatcher to Imperium, right? Because apparently like he was in Imperium back in the day in like whatever European wrestling tour, whatever the fuck they had back in Europe, right? So I think that's going to happen. There's really no way around it. You know, he's going to betray Tommaso Ciampa, and that's going to give Tommaso Ciampa something to do. Next up, we had the women's tag team title match, I think, right? Strangely enough, they lost. Fucking Dakota Kai and Gonzalez lost to Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart, you know? It is what it is. I don't really give a shit. It's a weird way to introduce titles because like you give them to two people as if they're the best, and then they lose the title that day. So, but at the same time, it's like, it's also interesting because you start the title's history off with just like a title change immediately. It's already been 2 champions. Oh my God. So there you go. That's what that was. I mean, like, isn't it weird that every title that gets introduced, I mean, it's kind of like the law of diminishing returns, but every title that gets introduced in wrestling becomes less and less important. Like, it goes way down to the hierarchy. Like, the women's tag team titles, NXT version, are obviously the least prestigious titles in this company. And not because, like, no one has them, but just because of the kind of champion they delineate. They delineate 2 women who aren't good enough to be champion on NXT. You know, it's kind of like the North American title, you know. It's like you're basically a guy who cannot be the champion of the jobber brand, of the development brand, you know. So it's like, it's kind of weird. It's like, it's almost like better not to have that title, you know. So there you go. That shit happened. What was next? I think next was, what's her face? Kaden Carter versus Zia Lee. This was really stupid. The thing of note here was that like the guy, the Chinese guy that's like Zia Lee's like partner or whatever, right? He got attacked by Kaden Carter with a crutch. This is just a failure, right? It's like these people are going after like 2 jobbers, right? One of them is a guy, and he's going after these 2 jobber women, and even then he's getting his ass kicked. Like, what the fuck does this mean? You know, like you have to think about these things when you do wrestling angles, right? Like, you have this dark, mysterious angle of some broad that's gonna kill everybody. You know what I mean? Sitting in a chair looking like a bitch, right? But the facts are what the facts are. Like, can you imagine this stable going against Brock Lesnar? No, you can't, because he would destroy all of them, right? At least something like the Wyatt family, you could imagine it, because they have these big dudes. You know, they have these big motherfuckers that can, like, you know, they can beat up people like Brock Lesnar. But we are where we are. So, Casey Catanzaro, I want to see more of her. She's athletic. She's attractive. She's got things going for her, you know? Like, she's small, I understand, but so is everyone else. So, I want to see more from her. She showed some attitude, which I enjoyed. Next up, we have Finn Balor cutting a promo from Ireland. And all of a sudden, we learn that Finn Balor is NXT Cruiserweight Champion, right? And by the time I realized this wasn't Finn Balor, because they look exactly the fucking same, I also remember that this guy was accused of like being a rapist or whatever. So that's the first time we've seen him since then. Who gives a shit? This obviously is the match to make though. Jordan Devlin versus Santos Escobar, NXT Cruiserweight Unifier match. It should main event one of the two NXTs in my opinion. But that's neither here nor there. Then we have Legado del Fantasma versus Grizzled Young Vets. After some interference from MSK, Legado del Fantasma beat them because that's just how it is, motherfuckers. Then what else do we have? What else do we have here? I don't remember much more. I know there was the main event, but I'm trying to see if there's anything else before the main event. I'm trying to think about it. I think, fuck it, whatever. I think it's the main event next. It's Finn Balor versus Adam Cole for the NXT Championship. The story of the match was Finn Balor no-sold everything that he could possibly no-sell. And Adam Cole eventually got put down by a 1916 and then a double foot stomp after Kyle O'Reilly just appeared, like where the fans usually hang out. He appeared and just like distracted Adam Cole enough. That's also going to be a match, obviously, at NXT Stand and Deliver. Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly. Or maybe they do something like Fatal 4-Way between all four of them. I don't know. But obviously that feud is going to come to an end in some capacity. So there you go. Yeah, the show was pretty good, all things considered. Like, it's like, there's a lot of things here that I did not like. Like, I didn't particularly give a shit about the main event because, like I've been saying for the last 2 weeks, it doesn't matter if Finn Balor wrestles Adam Cole or O'Reilly or Roderick Strong or Pete Dunne. They're the same thing. They're the same exact thing. There's nothing interesting about either of them, and they wrestle the same exact way. So I don't really care about that. What I do care about, though, is the fact that this episode made NXT feel more legit, you know? They're doing their little pay-per-view thing. They added a new title, which I think is stupid, but they added one nonetheless. They're uniting the two cruiserweight titles. Like, things are happening, you know what I mean? Things are happening and they're moving in the right direction. Oh, also, I forgot to say, Karrion Kross appears behind Finn Balor. And Finn Balor's like, what took you so long? Yeah, whatever. Fuck it. I think a better match would be just having, just having Finn Balor versus Jordan Devlin. You know what I mean? And call it the Irish jobber unifying match, you know, to see which one of these guys stays as a jobber and which one of them goes back to Ireland and can go be a jobber there or something, you know. So overall, I would say that this show was actually not so bad, all things considered. It moved the plot forward, things happened, and it made NXT look good. So these are things that I personally like. So this show is all right. And, you know, I typically watch NXT first and I leave AEW for second. So that's what I did this time. So I was like, all right, AEW is probably going to be worse. I mean, there's many ways to fuck all this thing up. And boy, I was right. This was a better AEW than most AEWs, but it was only better because it was the AEW after a pay-per-view, right? So it's like, after a pay-per-view, you have the opportunity to start from zero, you know what I mean? You can start new storylines. You can make new points. You can do things that haven't been done yet, right? So, and they did some of that, so it was good for that reason, but it was bad for a lot of other reasons, you know what I'm saying? And that's something that I think is very, very important for people to understand. That, like, the bad did definitely outweigh the good on this show. I mean, let's call it like it is, right? There was a lot of stupid shit, and there was a lot of things that, I mean, just, there were things that were stupid to look at. Like, you just look at it, you're like, this is stupid. You know? You don't even need anything to be explained. Like, you just look at it, you're like, this is stupid. Like, one example of that would be Shawn Spears' haircut. You look at that, you're like, this is retarded. Like, why is he doing this to himself, you know? But neither here nor there. Let's move forward. The show starts, motherfucks. I believe the first match was one of the Young Bucks. I think it was Matt Jackson versus Phoenix. And I will say this, Phoenix is awesome. People can say whatever they want. I like Rey Fenix. Rey Fenix is tight. You know what I mean? Insofar as what he is, Rey Fenix, I think, is the best one by far of all the luchador types. He is by far the most athletic. He has the most unique moveset. Like, he does things that actually are unique. You know, he does some power moves, like he lifts people and slams them, which is something that he doesn't have to do as a cruiserweight, you know? Like, Rey Mysterio never did a move where he lifted anybody, you know? Because he didn't need to. He's Rey Mysterio. But Rey Fenix does do them. The only thing that sucks about Rey Fenix, obviously, aside from the fact that he's on AEW, is also the fact that he's clearly a Rey Mysterio ripoff. He looks just like him, and his name is Rey Fenix. You know? Like, come up with your own lucha gimmick, bro, you know? But that is what it is. There's nothing to be done about that. You know, it was what it was, right? It was an okay match. Rey Fenix hit, like, I don't know how to explain it. It was basically like a fire thunder driver almost, but you know, like what's it called? Like a Magnum driver, basically, right? And he wins with that. it was a good opener. It was a good opener, I gotta say. Then we have Cookie Rhodes. What the fuck? Who the fuck is Seth Gargis? He wrestled Seth Gargis? I thought he wrestled QT Marshall. I guess I wasn't paying enough attention. I'm looking at the results for a show just to kind of like refresh my memory since I had so much trouble with NXT just now. But apparently Cody Rhodes wrestled Seth Gargis. Who the fuck is Seth Gargis? I really thought it was QT Marshall, which really was weird because then QT Marshall came out later in the night with no mention of this whatsoever. Because like when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, Cookie Rhodes is beating up QT Marshall because QT Marshall betrayed whatever, the Nightmare Family or whatever, right? So he's just like showing him, you know, like what happens when you betray the Nightmare Family. And then afterwards, QT Marshall's hanging out with Leon Ruff from AEW, whatever the fuck his name is. I'll call him AEW's Leon Ruff. You know, like he's hanging out with that guy who's also part of the Nightmare Family. And I'm like, the fuck, that makes no sense. But now it makes a lot of sense because it was Cookie Rhodes versus Seth Gargis, motherfuckers. Seth Gargis for MVP, right? The match was obviously horseshit. It was a squash match, which makes a lot more sense now that it's Seth Gargis. And then Penta El Zero Miedo, right, who apparently does Spanish commentary. He takes, I think, Alex Marvez, right? He takes one of those guys, right, and he has them translate for him to talk shit to Cody. This was fucking awesome. I really enjoyed this shit-talking part, right? First of all, the translator guy, I want to say it's Alex Marvez, but like I don't know if it is. I don't know what Alex Marvez looks like. I know the guy kept calling him Alex, but it could be a number of different Alexes. This guy did a fucking fantastic job. First of all, he would lean in and Pentagon would whisper into his ear. And then he would have this like cocky smile, like, oh yeah, I'm about to say that shit, you know? And then he would deliver it like an asshole. Like he would deliver it like not as an impartial translator. He would deliver it like clearly he was on the side of Pentagon and he clearly wanted to get under Cody's skin, you know? And he would deliver it in a way where it sounded insulting, right? Because someone just saying the insult, it's not exactly like great, right? A lot gets lost in translation, if you will, fucks. So he did a great job, I thought, right? The way this thing was done was really well done. Pentagon is cool, and Pentagon basically kept saying like, yo, if it was just me and you at the ladder match, I would have whipped your ass and you wouldn't have been able to like be here right now, right? I would have broken your arm, right? This is all mostly through whatever, fuck it, we'll call him Alex Marvez, right? It was mostly through this cocksucker, right? And basically the thing was at a certain point Pentagon says like through Alex Marvez, Pentagon's like, yo, like if it was me and you in the match, you would lose a lot more than the match. You'd lose your arm and you wouldn't be able to hold your newborn daughter with. Now, I didn't even know that they had their kid yet. I wasn't sure. Good for them. Congratulations, right? This was legit. It was a legit insult, and to a new father, this probably would be something that like really pisses people off. Logically, it makes no sense because people are like, keep my daughter's name out of your mouth, like whatever. Like, you know, he didn't insult the daughter. He insulted Cody Rhodes, you know, which is kind of weird. But we understood what was trying to happen, and he was really trying to provoke him. So they have like a mini brawl. I'm actually looking forward to this match. I think that they could have a fantastic match. For all the shit I talk about Cody is capable of putting on great matches. I'm not saying he puts on great matches, but he's capable of putting on great matches. Cody is, unlike most people in this company, a wrestler. You know, I understand. I typically say he's a product of nepotism, and I agree. I'm not saying he's not. He is a product of nepotism, but the facts are what the facts are. And the facts in this case dictate, motherfucks, right? That Cookie Rhodes will have a good match with Pentagon because they both have like a very similar, like grounded but kind of high-flying wrestling style, and I think a lot of cool spots can happen here. So I'm excited for this. Now, when I say I'm excited, I'm more excited than if it was Cody Rhodes versus Darby Allen. That's what I mean. I don't mean I'm excited like, you know, to the level that I was excited for, I don't know, Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. Of course not, right? So, again, another decent segment here. Segment. Sting came out and said absolutely nothing except for Darby Allen's cool. That's what he said. Thus far, this has been a really shitty debut. No one's impressed by this. I don't know how I feel about Sting even being here now. It's been 3 months and all he's done is have like one cinematic wrestling match. It didn't matter. You know, I know he wasn't going to wrestle today, but it would have been nice to see him do something. Maybe beat someone up. I don't know. Fucking, what's his face came out? Lance Archer and Jake the Snake came out. And Lance Archer pretty much, I don't understand. Like, this was one of the things that sucked ass about AEW this week. It's like all the losers from the ladder match, right, came out and did like really loser things. You know, Cookie Rhodes beat a jobber. Pentagon complained about Cookie Rhodes. And then they got into a fight. And then Lance Archer, who also lost, came out and got mad at Sting for some reason. he was like, oh, things need to change around here. You know, I'm gonna basically try to make a name for himself, right? But he lost. You know, this guy can't win the big one. Let's call it like it is. He can't win the big one. So for some reason he was mad at Sting. Sting didn't give a fuck and left. Then we had all ego Ethan Page versus Lee Johnson. Now, I like this kid because I saw a few highlights of him and the other guy wrestling in TNA when they were tag team champions, and I thought they looked like a great tag team. But as a singles guy, I don't know how I feel about this guy. First of all, he looks generic as shit. Like, there's so many of these guys. You know what I mean? And I need something to differentiate him from MJF or fucking all the other MJF Miz type characters, you know? He's just another guy who thinks he's good looking and has ego, right? That's his gimmick. It's another Ricky Starks. It's like this. There's no one else of any other personalities in this company or in this sport, whatever, you know? The match was all right. He hit like the border toss, which he calls the ego's edge. It was really cool because he fought Lee. There it is, Lee Johnson, also known as Leon Ruff of AEW. And they're the exact same character, just a jobber, right? Like a black young guy who's a jobber and like who's never expected to win, you know? Except Leon Ruff is actually kind of entertaining, you know, like, but it is what it is. So I always confuse the two because they're never featured prominently. It is what it is, motherfucks. Ethan Page obviously won. And then what happened afterwards? I feel like something happened. I just don't remember. Let's see here. At Release Page's Edge earned Page the win. While I discussed it, QT Marshall walked off. That's what happened. You know what I mean? It was what it was. It was a squash match. However, there was this weird audio glitch. I was skipping around a little bit. So when I pressed play, like, I watched the remainder of the match with this audio glitch, just this woman talking in the background. And I couldn't tell what she was saying. And like, no matter how long I rewinded on the stream, on the fucking Hulu stream, right? No matter how long I went back, the audio was still there. So I was thinking to myself, maybe this is like his gimmick. Maybe it's like a woman just saying good things about Ethan Page. You know what I mean? Maybe she's just like, Ethan Page is great. He's going to beat your ass, right? And you just keep hearing this, and that's his gimmick, right? He's so into himself that he has someone talk about him the whole time. No, it was just a glitch. Just a glitch because they never explained it. Nobody could ever understand what they were saying. The announcers didn't talk about it. It was just a stupid glitch. Someone forgot to hit pause on something, you know what I mean? So it is what it is, motherfucks. That really ruined this match. Like, it just really showed the production quality of AEW, especially on a night like this where their production quality should have been excellent to, you know, kind of make up for their bum thing. We'll talk about that later. Christian Cage came out, right? Or he was supposed to come out. The bad guys, Kenny Omega and friends, came out. They pretty much, like, I guess I should go back and talk about what Moxley and Eddie Kingston said. So they had a little thing with Eddie Kingston and John Moxley where they explained what happened, right? Now, AEW is in damage control. You know what I mean? The correct thing to do here, in my opinion, would have been, honestly, Tony Khan comes out and says, we are sorry that you guys feel like you didn't get what you wanted. This was just poorly thought out. You know what I mean? From our point of view, we thought it would look better than it did. We did not want to like hurt anybody, right? And we wanted to make it safe as possible, right? Break kayfabe and just be like, yo, sorry, we thought it was going to be good. I think that would have been the best solution. You don't even have to break kayfabe. You could just be like, Tony Khan comes out and says, sorry that people were disappointed by the finish. We thought it was, the bomb was as it should be. We were afraid to make it more dangerous because we didn't want anyone to get very hurt, especially after such a grueling match when their defenses are down. Something like that would have been good. But instead what happened was this ridiculous, and just ignore the Eddie Kingston thing. And what happened was this ridiculous cockamamie nonsense, right? Basically, Eddie Kingston explains how he had flashbacks, right? This is really stupid. I don't think they understand what a flashback is. He had flashbacks, right, to a time when he was in prison or like in court, and he was going to go face the judge, right? And he thought he was going to go to prison. And apparently he passed out then, right? Which was a really pussy thing to do. Like, what kind of a man does that? You know what I'm saying? Like, especially like supposed to be like a hard man. What kind of a hard man like passes out before they're about to face their punishment? You got to fucking take it on the chin, motherfuckers. And you know what I'm saying? Like, Eddie Kingston, he's a fucking conundrum. One of my friends and I were talking, and he was like, what's that guy's name? The guy who acts like a Mexican? Those are my friend's exact words. And I was like, yo, bro, he actually is from like Puerto Rico. And my friend's like, yeah, that guy that acts tough, you know? That guy, he looks like a pussy, right? So, like, the point I'm trying to make is that this this guy is already seen by many people, like my friend, right, as a guy who's trying to act tough. Like, he doesn't look like a tough guy, he doesn't feel like a tough guy. He's trying to act tough, right? And now he says the explanation Eddie Kingston gave was he had flashbacks to a time when he was going to go to court. You know what I mean? And then that caused him to pass out. First of all, dumb fuck, how does explosions around a ring have anything to do with court? You know, it would have been cool if like for example, let's say that this happened in WWE, and the guy that came out was, I don't know, Jackson Riker, right? Jackson Riker covers up Elias from an explosion and then passes out. Jackson Riker can then be like, yo, I had flashbacks to my time in Afghanistan, right? Because he's been a soldier, he's been shot at, he's heard explosions, right? That would make sense. Not I had a flashback to the time when I was in court. What the fuck? Like, you should get that flashback when you see like a document, you know? Not when you see like fucking, what the fuck was that? That was so stupid. Retarded explanation. Nobody enjoyed this explanation. Nobody enjoyed this vignette, right? All of a sudden they're friends again. That it's going to be challenging for AEW to keep them as friends, right? While also kind of like trying to make Eddie Kingston become a face when it didn't happen, when the heroics weren't there, right? The argument then shifted, the burden was shifted on Kenny Omega and Don Callis to explain what happened. And what happened was, they didn't really say it, right? The whole point was like, Don Callis was like, we can neither confirm or deny that we did like a pussy-ass explosion on purpose. But basically then he confirmed that that's exactly what happened. And that basically the plan was to rob Jon Moxley of his, like, you know, like warrior's death, if you will, right? And to rob Eddie Kingston, which they didn't expect to do anything, to rob him of this opportunity too. Like, they really played up this, we're heels and we took away the opportunity for you guys to be heroes, right? Which was really stupid, because that makes absolutely no sense. You know what I mean? Makes absolutely no sense. You know, like, you could just rob them of that opportunity by not having the match at all. Having a normal match where the ring doesn't explode. You know what I mean? Like, you gave them the opportunity only to take it away and take it away from the fans. Furthermore, the implications of what Don Callis was saying was that they didn't expect Eddie Kingston to do anything, right? But he did. And in doing so, Don Callis and Kenny Omega, and I guess the Good Brothers, robbed motherfucks Eddie Kingston of his opportunity, of his like moment, of his heroic moment. But they didn't, because they're treating Eddie Kingston as a face. They're treating him as if he did have that moment. You know what I mean? Where Eddie Kingston did try to go and save them. He had the moment. You know what I mean? And now they're pretending he didn't. But it's like he did. Like, people liked it. You know, he's the face now. He's friends with Moxley, right? Jon Moxley was enticed by the fact that he went to save him. Whether there was a danger or not, his character is still the same, motherfucks. So it makes absolutely no sense. The character of Eddie Kingston, whether it was like the nuclear bomb or whether it was nothing, the character was, I'm not going to let my friend get hurt. I'm going to go and save him, right? He showed his character. That's what matters, right? They didn't take away anything from him. So this explanation was complete horseshit, and it really made the company seem amateurish. Combined with the audio problems during the Ethan Page-Lee Johnson match, right? It was even worse, right? It just makes this company seem like the amateurish company that they are. The small-time, low-budget, C-level company, right? So there you have it. This turns once Kenny Omega and Don Callis are done talking about this, Eddie Kingston comes out to the ring, right? And they're talking shit to him. They're saying, we're going to kick your ass, so leave, basically, right? They pretty much call him a jobber. They say a bunch of shit to him. And then Kenny Omega's like, hit me if you want. And then all of us are going to kick your ass. So Eddie Kingston's like, all right. He does like the stereotypical, like, all right, fine, fuck it. And he punches Kenny Omega in the face and starts getting his ass beat by the Good Brothers. Now, the problem is this. He punched Kenny Omega in the face once, and Kenny Omega like passed out for like 3 minutes. This is the world champion. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand. In reality, a punch to the face can knock you out. It probably will never knock you out that much, but like for that long, but it'll knock you out enough. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of the reality of the world, you know? If anyone's been knocked out, you know that typically it doesn't last for long. You come to pretty quickly, right? Like in a few seconds. Now, in those few seconds, someone can kill you, of course, but you come to pretty fast. And in this situation, Kenny was willing to take a knockout just so they could kick his ass. That they could kick Eddie Kingston's ass. But it doesn't mean that he should get knocked out. You know, he's the champion. He should come out looking strong. And he didn't. Basically what happened was they start fighting. The Good Brothers start fighting Eddie Kingston. Moxley comes out, and the good guys beat up the bad guys, right? Eventually, this leads to a situation where Christian Cage comes out, and Kenny Omega's in the ring. They have a face-off. Kenny Omega tries to strike Christian Cage. Christian goes for the unprettier, but Kenny Omega is pulled away from his friends on the outside. I don't know how I feel about this. Christian is known for cutting great promos. That should be his thing. You know, he should come out here and try to do moves on people for no reason. He should try to come out here and actually cut promos. I'd much rather have seen a Christian promo versus a Don Callis promo. So there's that, number one. Number two, motherfucks, the facts are what the facts are. Christian should have hit the unprettier, right? Kenny Omega already looked like a bitch, so might as well take the unprettier. That way we get to see the unprettier, and that way we get to see Christian standing on top with the title, which he did anyways, without even hurting the champion, right? So it looks like Christian versus Kenny Omega is the next feud. I'm excited for this myself. So there you have it, motherfucks. I mean, excited. I'd be more excited if it was Christian versus Cody Rhodes or someone that is, you know, a bit more of a normal wrestler that doesn't like do all these things, but it was what it was. Then we had a 6-woman tag match. Britt Baker, Maki Ito, and Nyla Rose versus Hikaru Shida, Thunder Rosa, and Ryo Mizunami. All right. The only interesting part of this was this Maki Ito broad comes out and starts dancing, right? I mean, let's be real. Like, this was fucking stupid, but it was entertaining as well. I mean, let's call it like it is. It's this broad just singing in Japanese, right? Like, the humor was she's prioritizing singing the song over her match, which is her job, right? So there you have it. Nothing really happened. Who really cares? The only thing of interest was the girl was singing. I don't know what's going to happen next with the women's division, but the thing that needs to happen is Hikaru Shida needs to drop the title because she's not a compelling champ. You understand me? So there you have it. What happened? Then we had the main event. Scorpio Sky versus Darby Allen. Like, main event match, I should say. It's not the closing segment. Scorpio Sky versus Darby Allen. Typical Darby Allen match. I'm starting to like Darby Allen. I got to say, motherfucks. I got to say, I like this guy. I believe that he could fit in WWE and NXT. Even, I'm going to say it, even in the Attitude Era. I mean, he would be a jobber, but he would have a spot. He would have a spot as like a jobber who occasionally might win. Like, Darby Allen in WWE would be like he would fit this role perfectly, right? Two big guys are wrestling, like two important people are wrestling. So let's say you have, I don't know, Kurt Angle and Eddie Guerrero are wrestling. And as part of the feud, you know, they're going to wrestle in 3 weeks at pay-per-view. And as part of the feud, Kurt Angle decides that he's going to beat up some jobbers, right, just to prove how dominant he is and break their ankles, right? Let's say Kurt Angle says, I'm going to break your ankle, Eddie. So then he's like, this week I'm going to wrestle Shannon Moore and break his ankle. So he does. He wrestles Shannon Moore and breaks his ankle. Then next week, he's like, I'm going to wrestle Scotty 2 Hotty and break his ankle again, right? And he starts wrestling Scotty 2 Hotty and does the same thing. Third week, he says, I'm going to wrestle Darby Allen and break his ankle because he's also a jobber. So third week, he does this. Eddie Guerrero comes up, right? Hits him with a chair. Darby Allen gets a roll-up and wins. And rolls out of the ring into one of those, holy shit, I can't believe I beat Kurt Angle moments. You see what I'm saying? That's what Darby Allen's good for. That could be his role, you know? But in AEW, his role is much greater than that, as it should be. Darby Allen does crazy shit, and his wrestling style is believable for what it is, right? Like, there's no reason why Darby Allen should beat up, like, Brian Cage, right? But if Darby Allen beats up Brian Cage, it's either going to be with a roll-up, or any other screwy type of shit, like count-outs, things like that, or it's going to be he jumps off like 5 ladders, right, and does the coffin drop or something crazy, which also should be enough to put down a Brian Cage, especially considering that Brian Cage lost to Tessa Blanchard. So, Darby Allin wins in one of the Darby Allin ways, also known as the good old like roll-up situation, right? He does a roll-up and wins. And then Scorpio Sky turns heel, motherfucks. Scorpio Sky turns heel. Scorpio Sky just put a heel hook on Darby Allin and hurt him, and he had this heel look on his face. I don't think this is going to end up going anywhere important, but here we are. So that's what happened. Lastly, we had the Inner Circle had a segment, right? The segment was it was like the Inner Circle War Council, right? I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, to be honest, I thought it was fucking atrocious. I thought it was horrible, and here's why. First of all, even JR pointed this out. First of all, every week now, it seems, the Inner Circle has to have some sort of discussion. You know, some sort of internal discussion, right? It's like, oh, the Inner Circle is going to shake hands this week. the Inner Circle is going to part ways this week if they don't shake hands again. You know, like, will Sammy Guevara and MJF get along, right? There's all this shit. And the answer is always, who gives a fuck? You know what I'm saying? Who gives a shit anymore? You've had so many of these, and this was the same exact thing. The War Room. It's the same thing. You know what I mean? It's the same exact thing. So basically what happened was, they come out, and, like, MJF says to Jericho, I think it's time for us to let some people go, right? Because Jericho was saying they need a new member, and MJF was saying it's time to let some people go. Sammy Guevara comes out and tells Jericho, look at the Titantron. Jericho says, I never wanted to see your face again. So he's like, just look, Chris. So he does that, all right? And it shows a video backstage of Sammy Guevara putting the camera up, and then it shows the rest of the Inner Circle talking, and MJF saying, like, all right, we're going to attack Jericho and kick him out, right? And they're like, yeah. You know, and Jericho sees it, and then they tease that, like, what's it called? Santana Ortiz and Hager are going to turn on Jericho, and then they turn on MJF. And Jericho's like, you know, we talk every day. We're like best friends. So now we're going to kick your ass, boy. Right? MJF is like, please don't kick my ass. And then MJF says, you know, the reality was I never wanted to take over your faction because I was busy building one of my own. Right? Then the lights come out, and then the lights come on. And for some reason, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the way I was looking at it. Wardlow had his hair down. That didn't help. And Shawn Spears looks like, I don't even know what he looks like. He looks like, I don't know, for some reason he reminds me of It. Like the clown. I don't know why. Yeah. So basically I'm like, what the fuck is this blonde guy? And who the hell is this, like, Jeff Cobb looking motherfucker? Until I realized it was the two of them. It was Wardlow and Shawn Spears, as well as the fucking, what's it called? FTR, right? So, whatever, Dash Dawson, whatever the fuck his name is now, the bald guy, the bald one, smashes a bottle on someone's head, like Swagger's head. That takes Swagger out of action, right? Then the bad guys, like, what's his face? Shawn Spears grabs Sammy Guevara and does like a curb stompish move to the bottom corner where there's a chair. Sammy Guevara sold it really well, I thought. He could have easily not sold it and it would have been a complete botch, but he went out of his way to make it look good. That was really cool. Then the tag team champions, right? They get handcuffed and they get pile driven by FTR and Tully, right? This was interesting. Here's why. It would appear that the people that attacked each other are the ones that are going to feud, except for the FTR and Jericho. I mean, FTR and Swagger, right? The whole point is exactly that, motherfucks. Like, this is going to be a big feud, and I'm actually looking forward to it. Then they beat the shit out of Jericho. MJF hits him with a diamond dozen, whatever the fuck it's called, the diamond ring thing. He hits him with that, right? And then eventually, Wardlow powerbombs Jericho off the stage. And these people stand tall. The entire point here was, like, this is the next feud. Inner Circle turned face, and MJF now has a new faction, which is what people thought the Four Horsemen were going to be. Except there's 5 of them motherfucks, so there you have it. Now, here's the problem with all this, right? First of all, the plan is retarded. There were so many swerves in this that it made no sense. Yeah? Absolutely no sense. Like, MJF knew they were going to screw him, right? So he built his own, like, stable in response. Why did he even join the Inner Circle? Yeah? None of this made any sense. And also, I'm not a fan of the spot where the lights go off, because automatically when the lights go off, I assume one of 3 things is going to happen. Sting is going to come out, Undertaker is going to come out, or someone new is going to come out. Or I guess the Fiend as well, right? In this case, none of those things happened. Undertaker didn't come out, Sting didn't come out, and they had to have Sting on the roster, and no one new came out. You know what I'm saying? It was just that a bunch of people came out and the lights went off. Why did the lights have to go off? Why didn't they just run into the ring? You know? So, I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing this feud play out, but I thought that this segment was rubbish. It was shit. So there you have it, cucks. There's that. And also, I thought that the explanation for the ring not exploding, all of the explanations they gave were lackluster, inferior, and stupid. And I don't think they should have done that at all. Yeah. So I give the edge to NXT this week for sure. But I will say that both shows were better than usual. You know? Like, a few tweaks here and there, you know what I mean, would have made this episode of AEW one of the best episodes of AEW. Because the matches they had were pretty good. I mean, they were pretty entertaining matches, right? Except for the fact that I thought Cody Rhodes wrestled fucking QT Marshall. Turns out he wrestled some guy named Gargis, right? But aside from that, the matches were pretty decent, I thought, you know? The only thing that sucked was like the way that they handled their you know, non-match segments, right? They should have had Christian Cage cut a promo. They should have had him hit the Unprettier. They should have had a couple of things happen differently. And they should have really, really revised the final segment, right, into a segment that made sense and didn't have like 5 turns in the plot in one segment. But other than that, it was all right. So I would say that more importantly than NXT beats AEW this week, I would say that this week was enjoyable. This Wednesday night was an enjoyable night of wrestling. So there you have it, Cucks. That's what I got to say about that. And with that, I'll see you motherfuckers later, bitches!